YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back on Medieval 2 Total War. And some of you continue to complain in the comments on here, I can't see your cursor, fix it. I don't know why you can't see my cursor. I've tried to fix it. If I could tell you, I'd fix it, but I don't know why you can't see my cursor. I can see my cursor, obviously, but for some reason the recording software doesn't seem to pick it up, so I don't know what I can tell you there, other than you're going to have to learn to live with it at this point. So, as you can tell, I'm enjoying some Medieval 2 online battles right now, just because it's different and it's kind of fun for me to explore. I hope you all are enjoying it too. This time I decided to play as Russia, and I've got a slightly different type of army here. I'm going to fast forward until the battle begins. I picked the map Tuscany and then immediately regretted it, because just very, yeah, very weird map here. So I can't remember how to do some of the camera controls here. Yes, zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, okay, whatever. I guess there's not like a free look with the camera, like where I can look up into the sky like I could on other Total Wars. At least I don't know how to control it at the moment. Anyway, you can see it was quite a long time before this battle started. My opponent took quite a while to position his troops. He's playing as the Holy Roman Empire. I'm playing as Russia. I will introduce you to my army. We'll have plenty of time. The battle is not a super quick one. So we are back into regular speed here. So let's take a look at my my troops up front. I've got 2 dismounted Dvor, which are missile units, typically found on horseback, but of course they're dismounted here. They have very long-range missiles with nice stats, and then pretty decent melee stats as well for an archer unit. I've got 3 dismounted Boyar sons, and that's because they're armed with a single-handed axe. And then over here I've got 3 dismounted Druzina, which is a heavy infantry here. So again, a single-handed axe unit. So all these guys should be fairly effective against armor, and I've heard that the double-handed axe units don't do well because of the animation, so I wonder if the single-handeds do well. Here's my Russian bodyguard over here, very cool-looking unit. So yep, got the bodyguard there for my cav, and then I've got on each flank I've got 2 Druzina or Dvor cavalry, which are kind of a heavier bow horse cav, and I'm luring enemy Teutonic Knights. These guys have a charge animation, so I've got to be careful to stay in front of them, but my Dvor is faster than these Teutonic Knights. This is exactly what I want. I knew that if my opponent picked when he picked the Holy Roman Empire, that he would have very little to contend with my bow cavalry here. You can see, though, when they get into a charge animation, you got to be careful to stay ahead. The skirmish function kind of screwed me over there. I do some mix of skirmish control and self-control here, but you can see I'm quickly picking away at the Teutonic Knights. They're going to take a lot of losses, and my opponent really needs to stop chasing me, and I'll explain why. Over here, I moved up to get on my opponent's flank and to try and get some shots, and I didn't realize that what he had here was actually 2 Pavis crossbowmen. And these guys have very long range, decent armor, and they kind of redeem crossbowmen somewhat, because crossbow militia seem to be pretty craptacular. Unless you can get point blank, like unobstructed shots, they'll do okay, I guess. So my opponent basically has crap infantry for the Holy Roman Empire, which I did not expect whatsoever. But he's got halberd militia. He's basically just hoping to hold this hill, and then a few dismounted feudal knights. These guys are okay, the dismounted feudal knights. And then behind them he's got arquebusiers, which these guys are kind of like an earlier version of musketeers. So he's got 3 of those. He's got, I think, yeah, 3 crossbow militia, 2 Pavis crossbowmen, 3 Pavis crossbowmen, and another dismounted feudal knight back here. And his cavalry was those Teutonic Knights that are still chasing me all over the map, in fact. And these Teutonic Knights are paying a heavy price. These guys are down to 37 men. And my Dvor can easily stay ahead of them and continue to shower them with missiles as they retreat, which is exactly what I'm doing. And now these Teutonic Knights being shot in the back are going to suffer. My opponent all of a sudden turns towards my lines, so I get a couple of dismounted Druzina ready, and he goes into a wedge, which I don't know if this actually helps him. I haven't understood wedge yet in this game. I'm going to charge my bodyguard in while he can't really get up to speed, and so I'm going to get a nice charge on his cavalry. And then I'm going to bring my my dismounted Druzina into this combat to help take down these Teutonic Knights, which are actually a very powerful cav unit. I've gone into combat with these guys, but they're acting kind of funny. He's going to charge in with these Teutonic Knights, and then these guys he's going to continue to chase my Dvor cavalry and to continue to suffer. But with the support of my infantry, my general's bodyguard is going to do okay here. He's lost 4 men, but again, the good against armor characteristic is probably really going to help my Drazina here, because these Teutonic Knights are pretty heavily armored, and then I'm already bringing in a rear charge with my other Devore cavalry. I would not want to get these guys charged, but in prolonged combat they will do okay-ish versus some of these other cav, and that causes the Teutonic Knights to rout, and then these other Teutonic Knights are going to be shot to death. So my opponent is piecemeal allowing me to pick away at his troops when, numerically speaking, he could cause me a lot of trouble if he wanted to move up and engage. And he actually brought some artillery as well. He's got these 2 ballista. One of them was a little closer here. They've gotten a few kills on me, but they moved within range of my dismounted Devore, and they're taking heavy archer fire. And his general was in a ballista. Probably a mistake on the part of my opponent. His army is somewhat ill-chosen here in my mind, so clearly probably unintentional. If it was intentional, definitely not the place where you want to put your general in a ballista unit that moves too far forward. There's his general laying dead on the ground. So yeah, this other ballista unit is firing, but they are now under fire from my dismounted Devore. You can see the Devore are firing uphill. Very nice range on these guys, and they are a pretty deadly archer unit as far as their missile attack. I don't know how they balance in as far as price and survivability and all that other kind of stuff too. I'm not very familiar with the archers in this game just yet. Yeah, you can see that he's loading these ballista bolts in here. It's very cool looking. It's like a giant crossbow, basically. Yeah, his guys are taking some pretty serious fire here from my Devore. Let's see if he fires his bolts here. It doesn't look like these ballistas are getting too terribly many shots. It looked like that was already loaded and he reloaded it. In fact, I'm not even sure I've seen them fired just yet. They're just getting hammered by my Devore. Yeah, so at this point my opponent has brought some more infantry out after me. He brought these dismounted feudal knights to chase my Devore cavalry, and then he brought his Pavis crossbowmen to shoot at me while he was doing. But while his knights got distracted for a moment and his attention was elsewhere, my Devore cavalry charges his Pavis crossbowmen, and I'm going to destroy them quite badly in melee. So yeah, I can see these Pavis crossbowmen are wavering, and these guys over here are also wavering. He brings his dismounted feudal knights up, but my cavalry is going to be able to slip away from them and then run a quick rear charge real quick on these Pavis crossbowmen and help this unit knock them out quickly. And losing these Pavis crossbowmen is a big loss to my opponent. He's only left with 1 unit. You can see the range on these guys is insane. They're already firing at my units down here, but they are firing way up in the air, which hopefully will make them a little less effective. If they had direct shots, it would be very dangerous. Pavis crossbowmen are a great skirmish unit. And again, my opponent's slow to react over here, and my Devore cavalry are eating up his Pavis crossbowmen. Now over here on this flank, I've got 1 unit of cavalry occupying the attention of his halberds, and he's got all of his arquebusiers moving out here. And I don't know what the range of these guys are. I don't know if I can fire on them with my bows and stay outside of range. So I'm just going to be careful here that I don't get my guys shot, because there's also a pretty big morale penalty. And then I've got my Devore here firing up the hill, which will be somewhat less than effective, but I am firing, trying to take on some of his Pavis crossbowmen. But these guys are pretty well shielded, as you can see. But I bring my Devore cav in, and I'm going to get into melee with them. This is not something they want, and I'm going to kill quite a few of them on the charge. His crossbow militia is set to skirmish, and it's just going to come out into the open where my other Devore cavalry can get a hold of them. And so these guys are going to get hammered on the charge. And then at this point, I've moved in some of my infantry, and I'm going to try and overwhelm some of his. He doesn't have very good infantry, and so I am fighting uphill, but my dismounted bowyer sons are going to do very well just up against this 1 feudal knight. My opponent does start to outflank me, so a good move here, but we'll see if it'll be enough. Like I said, my cavalry is already in his back lines, eating up his crossbow militia, which is now fleeing away. And in this flank, I'm just trying to open it up. You see how he's got this arquebusier missile? And I've just got my cavalry at a distance where he can't quite shoot me. I'm going to go ahead and move up the rest of my infantry at this point, and my dismounted, my guys rout his Pavis crossbowmen, which this is huge for me. They have 50 men left in their unit, and I'm going to kill a whole bunch more of their men here as they rout. So this will be great. Getting rid of these guys is going to be a huge benefit to me, because those guys are potentially deadly. And his feudal knights are not going to quickly be able to kill my dismounted bowyer sons. And I've got more infantry now coming in. My general dies in melee combat against an arquebusier. What are the chances? So the enemy general gets shot by one of my bowmen, and then my general gets killed by an enemy arquebuser who wasn't shooting. I almost wonder if I hit him with one of my own arrows, because it looks like I'm firing that way. I lose this Dvor cavalry temporarily, and my opponent's dismounted feudal knights are trying to make their way back to combat, while I have another Dvor cavalry back here continuing to run down the crossbow militia units. So the melee combat up here is going perfectly fine for my infantry. They seem to be holding their own rather nicely in this infantry engagement. See my guys here. He's going to reinforce with more feudal knights. Actually, he's chasing off my cavalry, which is probably a smart move. They were running rear charges. And then his halberd militia over here is doing quite poorly against my dismounted Druzina. So, yeah, definitely not going good for my opponent at the moment. His morale is, yeah, shaken. These guys are eager, but some of them are shaken. And it's not going to take much to swing this battle in my favor. In fact, I start moving my dismounted Dvor around his flank, hoping to get some rear shots. Because it won't be very effective to try and fire over the top of my own men. But yeah, you can see my my dismounted bowyer sons here taking on his feudal knights in some very sweet-looking combat. His arquebusers are getting hammered by my Dvor cavalry. That's some more crossbow militia, actually. And here I hit some dismounted feudal knights, and then I'm going to turn around and charge back into this arquebuser unit with my bodyguard. So basically I'm running amok all over my opponent. He sends some dismounted feudal knights to chase my archers. They can actually hold their own in melee for a short time. And at this point the enemy infantry just starts to chain rout. And this unit here is now singled out, this dismounted feudal knight, and they'll be taking fire from my my archers as they kite, basically. I don't think they would be able to catch my archers on foot. So yeah, they're going to take fire from my archers, and then I've got this dismounted Dvor cavalry that's going to be coming in and hitting them from behind on a downhill charge as well. So it's going to be a pretty painful charge, and it does end up routing them. So there's just a few scattered units left for my opponent. He's got a halberd militia that was over here chasing me. Let's watch these dismounted Druzina take on this halberd militia. I downhill charge into them, and I don't know what the benefit of a halberd militia is. I'm not really familiar with these units or whether or not they work as they're intended, but they just get absolutely ripped to pieces by my dismounted Druzina. Absolutely crushed. Now it is a militia unit, and my Druzina is a heavy heavy infantry, so I guess that's to be expected. My opponent had some units of crossbowmen that actually regroup up here on top of the hill. And so I'll end up having to chase them down eventually, and that's pretty much what's left in this battle is me getting this unit up here chased down, and they are up here on top of the world. This map has some seriously huge terrain on it, and someone could do some massive hill camping if they wanted to. Glad that my opponent didn't. He did try and defend a hill position, and I don't mind that. Just glad he didn't try and camp all the way up here. That would be insane. You can see my cavalry actually shooting at his guys, and them shooting at me, and I do realize eventually where this unit's at. It took me a minute to see it. I was kind of checking around to see what units my opponent had left while I was running down other routing units to make sure they didn't come back. And you can see my cavalry now kind of cresting up over the hill. And obviously it is not going to be pretty for these crossbow militia to get caught by my Dvor cavalry here. These guys did quite well for me in this battle. You can also, of course, bring Druzina cavalry, which is all very cool units. Russia has a very unique flavor. They're like they have heavy horse archers. And then, of course, they have some other units that are quite good, like Tsar's Guard, but they're just very expensive. So Russia has some interesting units. It seems like in the heavy infantry department, those axe units seem like they could be handy. I don't know, again. I don't know how these guys fit into like an actual competitive landscape. You all gave me some great hints, though, as to kind of like which units do what. Casualties inflicted, man. The Dvor cavalry, all of them paying off heavily. General's bodyguard paying off heavily too. My cavalry paid huge dividends in this battle. My dismounted units did okay where they had the opportunity. And then my dismounted Dvor didn't have to do a whole lot, but they killed those enemy ballista units as well, which was great, including the enemy general. So great job by them. Hope you all enjoyed this other Medieval 2 battle. Let me go ahead and show you just real quick. Let's hit a custom battle. And let me just show you what Russia has available to them so you can see all their units. So if we go in here, these are the units. Oh, whoops, I need to go back and put it on all periods. I wish you could set it to where it would just default to one of those. So Russia in all periods, this is what they would have available to them. So not a huge roster here for him, and if you just take a look at some of the interesting units in my mind, this Dismounted Devore is the one that I used. So pretty sturdy melee statistics for an archer unit, and pretty good missile damage as well, makes them pretty handy. You do have access to Cossack Musketeers. I don't know how useful these guys are, but I mean, you have the gunpowder unit if you need it. You've also got arquebusiers. The Cossack Musketeers have a better missile damage. And then as far as cavalry, you got cavalry militia, you got these Druzina, and these guys are not a missile cav, so it's kind of cool because they'll charge using the lance, and then I think they switch over to an axe. So an interesting unit. If you get them into combat probably after the charge, I think these guys would be pretty deadly in a cav fight if indeed that axe is good against armor, which it should be. And then if you take a look at these other units, you got Tsar's Guard here. These guys... wow, yeah, that's some pretty strong stats on that cav. I don't know if the charge is the best, but I mean, it's still a very powerful cav unit. Then if you look here, you got Cossacks, just a cheap horse archer. Boyar Sons, not great missile damage or other stats really in these guys. I think the dismounted version of them seems better to me. Then you got your Cossack cavalry here. Again, probably just faster with slightly better melee stats than their cheaper cousins here, which could potentially be helpful at running down enemy skirmishers and just harassing. And then of course I use these Devore cavalry here, which kind of mix heavy cavalry with missile cavalry, but of course they cost more as well. Anyway, then from an artillery standpoint, it looks like they got access to the Basilisk, cannon, Grand Bombard, and then all this siege equipment here. Anyway, that's what Russia has to offer. A fun faction. I guess they've also got these woodsmen, kind of like Poland does. Kind of a interesting unit. Spear militia, spearmen. These British axemen, are these guys any good? Because everybody keeps telling me that the two-handed weapons aren't any good, and that's what these guys have. So I'm assuming that they fall under that. The dismounted Druzina is what I used, and then here's the dismounted Boyar Sons that I used as well. Archer-wise, nothing special to offer from the archer standpoint. Like I said, you definitely want to go for these dismounted Devore. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing off for now. Hope you all enjoyed it.